Hello, everybody. This is the first recording that I will do for Montana 1948, and this will be a sort of brief overview of the key characters and a little bit of background to the text as well. So Montana 1948 starts with a prologue in which our main character, David, sort of outlines a few memories that he has from that summer of 1948, where he's 12 years old. And there's sort of a key couple of images there where he talks about Marie Little Soldier being sick and feverish. Also, his father, calling out to his mother for help, and his mother loading a shotgun to fire out towards out of the window at men that his grandfather has sent to rescue his uncle. So the prologue sort of sets the scene for the text, and he also outlines the fact that his mother and father have both died, so he's the only witness sort of remaining that saw all of this unfold, and he then begins to explain the story in chapter 1. And the initial first part of the book just outlines sort of what it's like to live in Montana, and also a few of the key characters. So the country of Montana that he describes is hard rural country. The quote is, "The land is hard and sparse, and the wind never stops blowing." So it's a tough place to live. So much so that the people of Montana were generally so tired from just making sure that they were able to survive that nothing was left over for raising hell or making trouble. 1948, so the Second World War has just finished, and the veterans have returned, and everyone's happy in the quiet, peaceful way in which life is unfolding in Montana 1948. His father did not serve in the war, which is important. His father was injured after a horse kicked his leg, and therefore he was unable to serve because he's quite badly injured and walks with a limp. His father is sheriff in Mercer County, and David describes his job as a relatively easy one. He goes on to say that by and large, being sheriff of Mercer County did not require great strength or courage. And this, of course, is going to change. His father's going to show great moral strength and certainly great moral courage in the later parts of this book. As this story unfolds, his father's going to show immense strength in a number of ways. And David says that this disappointed him at the time, that there was not great strength or courage needed by the sheriff. That he sort of wanted a more exciting life for his father. He says, a position with so much potential for excitement, danger, and bravery, why couldn't some of that promise be fulfilled? So he's somewhat embarrassed about the job that his father does, I think, in a couple of ways. He wants him to be sort of more stereotypical of a Western sheriff. He says that my father didn't even look like a Western sheriff. He certainly didn't carry around a big gun. In fact, he went around generally unarmed. The only gun that he had was taken from a drunk who passed through, and he swapped a return ticket for the drunk to his family home for that gun. So he's not a big man for weapons, his father. His mother wanted his father to be a attorney, so she is somewhat disappointed in the fact that his father is the sheriff.
And she feels that the job that he has prevents him from being himself. The quote is that she wanted my father to find another job to allow my father to be fully himself. She feels that Mercer County restricts that freedom for his father, that he is unable to truly be his own man in that place. And this is because she feels that David's father is forced to live in his father's, or David's grandfather's shadow as sheriff in Mercer County. David's grandfather has been sheriff for a very long time. He swaps with his deputy Len, and between the two of them, they sort of take control of the county. David describes his grandfather as someone who needed power. He was a dominating man who drew sustenance and strength from controlling others. So his grandfather's very overbearing, and we're going to see that throughout the text, the effect that has on David's father and on the story as it unfolds. So when David's grandfather no longer wants to be sheriff, he calls on David's father to become sheriff. And David says that my father set aside his fledgling law practice. It would never have occurred to my father to refuse. So the grandfather asks the father to be sheriff, and his father accepts. And so there you have it, he says, a portrait of my father in those years, a man who tried to turn two ways at once, torn between his father and his wife. So we see some tension between David's father and the two most important people in his life, I think, that he wants to do what is right for his wife, but at the same time his grandfather asks him to do something, and he does that. David himself wants to run wild, not in terms of drinking, smoking, or chasing girls, but in a sort of a more innocent manner. For David, running wild meant getting out of town and into the country. He dislikes the claustrophobic feeling that the town, with its rules and politeness, creates for him. He says, I never felt as though I understood how town life worked. When lessons were taught about how to feel confident and at ease in school, in cafes, and with other children or adults, I must have been absent. So he finds himself quite socially awkward in town. He prefers to be on his own in the wilderness, where he feels much more at ease. This worries his mother, who wants him to be more civilized. And this is one of the reasons I think that she wants his father to become an attorney and leave Mercer County, because she wants David to live in a more urbanized environment. He also then goes on to outline the other key player in this story, who is Marie Little Soldier, their housekeeper. And he describes Marie as neither small nor shy. She loved to talk and laugh, and she was a great tease. She was close to 6 feet tall, with a body that could be ready at a moment's notice for sex or work. And he really looks up to her and admires her. He loves her very, very much. And he says, this is because she talked to me, cared for me, because she was not as quiet and conventional as every other adult I knew. And he clearly has a really deep love for her, and he looks up to her and admires her, and her boyfriend as well, Ronnie. And so this is the beginning of our story, where we meet our key players, our key characters, and the scene is set for what is going to unfold. And that will then begin when Marie becomes sick. So we sort of get this brief section at the start where everything's introduced, and then it goes to Marie being sick, and then the story begins to unfold at a very fast pace. So that there is our introduction to the characters.